Designers, creatives, tech obsessives. Today, we are talking about Apple. And no, we're not here to, talk about some small change to the iPhone or some fancy new aluminum trim that they put on some device. No. This week, Apple unveiled something different, something intentional, something with, dare I say, vision. I'm talking about the all-new Apple design language called liquid glass. And let me be very clear, pun intended, this is the biggest design overhaul we've seen from Apple since iOS 7, and it tells us way more than you think. Today we're going to take a look at what this new design language looks like and what it's laying the foundation for. But before we get into it, be sure to support the show by giving this episode a like, leaving a comment, and of course, by subscribing. This is Ziggy the Designer, the show where we talk about the world of graphic design and the people who make it move. Design is all around us, so we might as well talk about it. So for those of you who are living under a design rock, Apple held their annual Worldwide Developers Conference, otherwise known as WWDC, this week. Now, if CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, right? If CES is where tech nerds go to drool over prototype hardware, WWDC is where Apple shows the world what it's really cooking, what is real. This is where Apple doesn't just drop products, right? This is where they drop software design blueprints, right? UI trends that every copycat Android skin will be ripping off for the next 5 years. Let me put it like this. What WWDC is to tech, Milan Design Week is to fashion. It's where future forward meets prime time. And, let's not get it twisted. Apple is still one of the most influential forces in design, right? They might not be the flashiest name anymore, but in terms of setting the tone, setting the standard, they are the Jordan brand of tech. They have legacy, they have weight, they have taste. So when they finally decide to do something different from their, design language they've been using since 2013, since iOS 7, yeah, it's time to pay attention. So here it is, liquid glass, Apple's new visual system across iOS, iPadOS, and macOS, right across all of their devices. It is silky, right? It's tactile, and it's unapologetically Apple. Liquid glass is all about this hybrid design language that plays with depth, light blur, and motion, right? Think semi-transparent layers, curved edges, floating UI cards, and dynamic visual feedback that feels like glass in motion. They're saying it's inspired by their work with the Vision Pro, and if you've been paying attention to Apple's design evolution, this tracks 100%. Gone is the stark, flat, white-on-white minimalism that's been running the show at Apple for over a decade. In comes this liquid glass aesthetic with frosted textures and realistic light refractions, like you're tapping on a screen made of melted crystal. Very romantic, right? And make no mistake, it's not just pretty, right? This isn't skeuomorphism 2.0. It's functional, right? Every element has subtle movement, parallax, and depth cues to reinforce spatial awareness, something that's absolutely critical in mixed reality environments. Apple's VP of Human Interface, Alan Dye, said at WWDC when he announced this, "Inspired by the physicality and richness of Vision OS, we challenged ourselves to make something purely digital feel natural and alive," right? The key word here is Vision OS, the operating system for Apple's AR glasses. Translation, this isn't just for phones, laptops, and tablets anymore, right? This is Apple laying the visual groundwork for an AR-first future. And here's where I get real with you. This is an absolute win for Apple, and it's a long overdue one. Let's call it what it is. Apple's design language has been stale for years. Flat design was revolutionary when iOS 7 dropped in 2013, but here in 2025, it's the design equivalent to a beige sweater. It's safe, it's boring, it's predictable. And listen, right, that was fine for a while, but in a world where Samsung, Google, and even Microsoft are starting to flex their creative muscles, Apple needed to shake things up. And liquid glass is that shake. It's not just about polish here, it's about promise, right? It hints at something bigger, a unified design system that spans 2D, 3D, and augmented reality. It's Apple saying, we're not just making products, we're designing a platform for the future. Now let's talk data for a second here. Over 1.5 billion Apple devices run iOS globally. This kind of design upgrade actually reinvigorates the experience for the average user, right? This isn't just a UI update, right? This is a cultural reset for Apple devices, Apple users. Compare this to Google's Material You, right? Highly customizable, deeply personal, but also inconsistent across devices. Apple, they're betting on cohesion, on glass as a UI material, not just an aesthetic. And, let me leave you with this. You remember when Steve Jobs first introduced the iPhone and said that Apple was redefining the phone. This feels like that again, not as dramatic, I'll say that, not as dramatic, but philosophically it's similar. Apple is positioning itself not just as a design-first company, but as a spatial-first company. Design is no longer flat. It's going to be immersive, it's going to be layered, it's going to be alive, and liquid glass is the first step into that augmented edge. So here's the question I'm throwing at you, the Ziggy the Designer audience, the Ziggy the Designer family, right? Is this the revival of Apple's true design dominance, or is this just frosting on a stale cake? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That's all I have for you. Be sure to support the show by giving this episode a like, subscribing, and of course, sharing this one out. I've been Ziggy the Designer. If there are 2 things you need to know about me, it's that 1, I love design, and 2, I'm very opinionated. I'll talk with y'all later. Bye-bye.